Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks. I do have a bit of update on both the plane and the Lamborghini. So most of this was done before the surgery, but I wanted to go ahead and get an update video out. As far as the surgery goes, I am recovering. I'm doing fairly well. Having a little bit of difficulty getting readjusted to going back on some of my meds that I had to get off of for a couple of weeks for the surgery. And just for the most part, I'm bruised and sore in the areas where they went in for the actual surgery itself. There's a lot of bruising and I'm just stiff and sore a lot. But let's go ahead and get the camera flipped around and let's see what we've got done on our current projects. Alright guys, let's start with our update on the plane first. Our cockpit is inside the fuselage. The fuselage is together. Our engine is installed as well. And I have gone in and I have puttied up the seam that runs all the way from the bottom and the top. And I believe I have this sanded out to get a nice smooth finish. So everything was put together before the surgery. After the surgery, I tried to get this all puttied up, and I got the putty on there with no problem. I tried sanding it. My body was like, no, you need to take it slow. So we did it in small parts, just little bits at a time. There's like more putty on here than there is on many other parts. When I spray my first coat of primer, if I see problems, I'll go back, try to sand it smooth and reprime it until I get a smoother finish. But everything is, all the panel lines are scraped out, all that. Gonna give it a good bath because there is like putty and stuff in here, so we're gonna get everything washed up. The next steps will be to get the wings installed, which it takes a little fiddling to get these in the right place, but get the wings installed, get these bits installed, which I'm not sure which one goes where. Fit on these is kind of sketchy. And then I'm probably going to need to putty up these seams and the seams for the wings to get that all nice and cleaned up. Then we can start doing primer and paint on the airplane. But I do need to figure out how I'm going to mask off this canopy section or the cockpit section, because I need to get paint on here but not down in here. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to get that masked off so I don't get any paint on all of that while trying to paint up the body. And that pretty much is where we're at with the plane. Now, I do have a new project box. I forget, I'll look this up at some point and tell you guys which one this is. This of course came off Amazon, but there's another row of plastic, and it's 4 rows that are the same depth. I took a Dremel and I cut this bottom section out. And because things were kind of rough, I lined it with some felt, but that's still not quite smooth enough. You still see it's pretty rough down in the bottom. So I got some foam, some of the Silly Winks foam that some guys use for interiors. I just made an inset in there. I have broken off one of my little bits like this. I've actually broken both of them off, but I've 3D printed up some replacements. Those are pretty simple to do, and I'll just glue that one back on there. But this is my new project box for long things that don't fit, because this just doesn't fit in the ones that I have with the car that have the big bay on the side. After doing this though, I grabbed some more of this foam and I've lined the side pods for my project box so that I have less scuffing and scraping on bodies and whatnot inside those boxes as well. This foam is a really nice insert for this. Alright, for the Lamborghini, we have the body is assembled. You do need to glue on the hinge system for the frunk. This trunk, there's a bar here that you have to glue on, and I've puttied this, at least I hope that I've puttied this enough to get this nice and smooth when I go to paint. We'll see what happens. We may end up having to do some more work up here. Now, the door hinge system. There's an inner door, a center door. The inner door is part of the interior. There's a center door, and then there's this outer door portion. So the center door has the window frame on it. These hinge right here, and then this piece glues to the chassis, and it's supposed to glue down there. This whole hinge is gimmicky as hell, and it's very, very delicate. Anytime you try to move this door, the limbs on this hinge lock break. Well, they don't break, but they bend and they flex. They're going to break at some point. On top of that, there is you can see one over here that I actually tried to use. There's a metal pin in here that goes all the way inside this door panel, and it creates tension. So when you open this, it'll hold it open based on the tension that's on this metal bar. It's got like two small little tabs that go in different directions. So it creates tension inside the door. But when you try to close it again, you can see where I've got it kind of glued in here. This is supposed to be held by this lip, and it isn't. So when you go to close it, the entire bar just shoots past the retaining tab straight up into your wheel well. That's going to eventually break something. So I chose to just glue the doors in place on this kit. The fit, as you can see, is not amazing. I've kind of done the best that I can with what I've got. Need to be really careful. I've already broken this center window trim twice now. The door doesn't really line up with the body, so I've sanded that to try and clean that up as best as I can without doing too much change to the body shape. But yeah, we've kind of got these doors seated as nice as I can get them. There's still a gap here. It is what it's going to be. And I have left this in place for right now just because these are so frail. And I don't want to break these. So I'm probably going to leave this in place, and then just after I get all the paintwork done, I'm going to come back, mask all this off, and respray this window trim in black. And at that point I will cut this off. But for right now I want the strength in here just to keep from breaking something. This rear bumper, the fit on it is absolutely terrible. I did have to do some heat and some smushing and coercing. I actually cracked the bumper on this side. You can't see it because I've got it puttied over. There are huge sink marks on both sides of this. It just butt fits everywhere. There's no real positive locating. It doesn't line up correctly, so I've also had to do a lot of sanding to kind of straighten this out. I had to cut a bit because this actually stuck out probably 1/8 of an inch on at least one of these sides, and did a lot of sanding and cleaning up, but I did get it glued into place. Again, I had all this done before the surgery. After the surgery, I did try to putty this, and I've got it puttied as good as I think I can get it. When we spray primer, we'll have to see if we get any telltale signs and have to resand and respray to try and clean this up. But yeah, I had to take a lot of time. It took me a couple of days just to sand these because I had to just sand in small bits at a time. And also before the surgery, I had opened up all of these little holes. These are all filled in. So I took a drill and sandpaper and scribing tools, and I just took my time and opened all of these up, as well as these slats in here. So I opened up everything on the rear bumper. So yeah, hopefully we should be ready for primer at this point. I finally, just a day or two ago, got in here and sanded up all the mold lines, got them all cleaned up. There is one that if you're building this kit, you need to pay attention. There's a line that runs right off the edge of these air inlets. So you've got this that runs on this crease, and then you've got another one that runs up here, and it comes down through here on both sides, and you've got to get in there and clean that up, or you're going to have like a real bad panel line in there, or a mold seam in there. Panel line wise goes, most everything is already separate, so there's not a whole lot you got to do to rescribe the panel lines. I did kind of go in here and just very gently did these a little bit on this bottom lip here, and I did that, just rescribed those a couple, and rescribed these just a little bit, just very light. Just clean them up, getting any debris out of them. So that's about it for the body. Yeah, that does not sit well. And there's only so much you can do to kind of make it sit well. So this I am pretty happy with, to be honest with you. So the engine is complete, again, before the surgery. So this air intake port, this raised Lamborghini logo is part of the Zoom On Models setup. They've got some raised Lamborghini logos that I bought for the Aventador, and I grabbed one of those and have just put it, it's pretty dusty. So I grabbed one of those raised 3D emblems and just put it across. It's not accurate, but it looks really nice. There's also 6 of these bolts in here, and they've got some raised bolt detail. What I did was I drilled the centers out of all 6 of these, then came in with a chisel and chiseled away the raised bolt detail that they had. And then I threw in some 1mm Top Studio rivets, and those look really nice. I also added in, I don't think this is bare metal foil, I think this is the AK chrome trim, which is a bit stickier than the bare metal foil. So it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to work with, but it holds better for things like these hoses, in my opinion. We are wired up, and trying to run 13 plug wires is just like, it's too much. So what I did was I drilled out the bulk of the center of the distributor and just ran all 13 wires in as one and glued them all in. And then I 3D modeled and printed up my own wire looms. Nobody makes the 6-port wire looms in any of the photo etch sets that I have seen. And these 6-port round wire looms are used on a lot of these older V12s. So I went and made my own. They are available on my Colts 3D site. I also made some 3s. These were about a 0.5 millimeter thick, so they give you more presence than the photo etch does as well. They're probably about twice as thick as a photo etch wire loom, which gives them a little bit more visibility. On the site, I've got the 4 and the 6 in the round, and I've got 2, 3, and 4s in these oval long things. All in all, this engine is really beautiful. The heads are separate, the valve covers are separate. The carburetors are 6 individual carburetors. They've got a fuel rail as a separate part in here. All those little gold and black pieces, that's all one piece, but that's a fuel rail that lines up with all 6 of those carbs. Your pulleys, all of these devices, you know, your alternator and whatnot, all of that is separate. It all connects up to the belts and whatnot. There's some framing in there. Now there are a couple of things in here that are going to be hard to deal with. That hole right in there is the upper coolant line, and that hole down there is the lower coolant line. So it's going to be interesting to see how I manage to get these wired up, or the coolant lines run with the plugs in place, but I think we can make it happen. The exhaust I did in Mr. Hoppy Super Stainless, and then I just hit them with some Alclad exhaust manifold to darken them up, and that gives a nice, pretty authentic, worn, heat-stained look. I will need to come in here and throw a wash in all of this before I install it, just to kind of give it a little bit of dirt and grime and whatnot, but that will come later. So that's about where we sit with the Lamborghini right now. Alright guys, so that's going to be a wrap for this video. For the airplane, I don't really think I'm going to get much more done on it anytime real soon. I do have to get the wings on and do a bunch of putty for that. And I also have to figure out how exactly I'm going to mask off that cockpit area. What I would like to hopefully get done this weekend is to get the Lamborghini body in primer, maybe even in color. Hopefully, we'll just have to see how far I get done and what all work I have to do to it after that first coat of primer. So thanks for hanging out. I always appreciate you guys watching the videos, and I will catch you on the next one.